Madam Chairperson, honorable judges, most accurate timekeeper, distinguished guests, my most worthy opponents, and my fellow colleagues, an illustrious morning to you all. My teammates and I are pleased to be at this forum, which continues to raise the awareness of HIV and AIDS and of our role in stemming the spread of the disease in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Today, we rise to oppose the moot, be it resolved that mandatory testing for HIV is the most effective way to get to zero new infections. Before my teammates and I present our arguments, we deem it necessary to examine some of the critical terms in the moot. These are mandatory testing, most effective, and zero new infections. Mandatory, according to Cambridge English Dictionary, is defined as something that is demanded by law, or that which is not optional. Effective, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, is defined as that which is successful in producing desired or intended results. Therefore, to say that mandatory testing is the most effective way to get to zero is already completely flawed, because testing would serve only to establish numbers of those infected and those who are not. The definition of zero is self-explanatory. It means not, the absence of. And let's be honest, there has never been any test, any vaccine, or any invention that is 100% guaranteed in achieving its desired task. Over the years, school teams have explored a number of methods of getting to zero. In recent years, some ideas postulated were that a change in behavior can achieve zero, individual responsibility is the means of achieving zero, and an active community can achieve zero. Clearly, my opponents are doing nothing but running around in circles, and still refusing to accept that one method will or can bring us to zero new infections. In fact, if I am to point out the obvious, I hasten to remind you that any type of policy which is mandatory needs legislative approval. Clearly, while this testing will significantly reduce the number of infections, it still cannot guarantee zero new infections. To say that mandatory testing is the most effective in achieving zero new infections is grossly flawed, on the grounds that there is no such thing as mandatory testing as an isolated phenomenon. And so, by invoking the idea of mandatory testing, the affirmative team is really speaking of the collaborative approach. In other words, we believe that there is an expanded definition of mandatory testing which suggests that it cannot function by itself. Mandatory testing involves factors such as the physical capital, the social capital, educational campaigns, and even the morality of people. How does the proposition intend to defend the possibility of people coming together even to have mandatory testing? These people must tell themselves that this is something that we want to do, and then coming together suggests and mirrors that kind of morality. In other words, we need a formal reformation, we need a physical reformation, and we need strategies to come together and give way to mandatory testing. I ask you this, how many of our mandatory rules are not adhered to despite their being mandatory? If it were that easy, then there would be no need for traffic police officers as persons who automatically honor traffic laws. Aren't driver's license and roadworthiness certificates mandatory, and yet we have countless offenders? Why would one believe, therefore, that mandatory testing for HIV will even ensure that testing will be done by all, or that it will remotely achieve zero new infections? With the world being a village, and the speed and frequency at which people migrate, there is no way that mandatory testing can bring about zero new HIV infections. Unless, perhaps, if after being tested, infected persons are isolated and placed in an impregnable dome, never to interact with those who tested negatively. I ask you this, didn't Cuba quarantine those affected with the virus, and yet this failed to prevent the spread of the disease and to accomplish zero new infections? The problem of mandatory testing lies in these questions. As a single group of people, do we have the right to violate people's privacy in such an intrusive manner? Are we prepared for the repercussions on the economy of such a law, with tourism being the mainstay? Should in our wildest dreams such a law come into effect, how will it be enforced? Will children be tested? How often will this testing be required? Will the stats be published? How confidential will these records be? Will persons be given a card which identifies the frequency and dates that each test has been done? Would there be a fee attached to this testing? If not, how will the government finance such a program? Until these problems are successfully removed, which in itself is not achievable, we the opposition cannot rest our faith in mandatory testing, bringing us to zero new infections. I rest my case.